I'm Lance Henriksen. You're watching Bryan Lomax Movie Talk.
With the recent release of M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit, which he wrote and directed, I thought it was time to go over his back catalogue and rank and rate every one of his films. For the sake of this video, I'm only going to be looking at those films that have had a cinema release. Now, he did do two films before The Sixth Sense, Praying with Anger and Wide Awake, but other than a couple of festivals that they played at, and maybe one showing a screen somewhere, they were primarily made for TV or DVD. They didn't get a wide release at cinemas. So for the sake of this, we're going to start with The Sixth Sense as his first kind of major big screen release. I'm also just going to be choosing the films that he has personally directed. Now, he has written and produced many other things, Devil being a primary candidate, but that's not going to be on this list because he didn't direct it. Now, I do need to say right up front that I am a fan of M. Night Shyamalan, despite all the bad press he's had in recent years, despite the fact that his last four films at any rate have been pretty much critically mauled in all quarters, with the exception of The Visit. I am a fan, and two of those films that were mauled I do still like. I still enjoy quite a lot. That's not to say he hasn't made a bad film, we will get to that, but on the whole I am a fan of this guy and I do have faith that he will continue to make good films in the future. And so we're left with 9 films that Shyamalan has directed, and the bottom of these, the bottom of the ladder so to speak, the worst of his, has to be without doubt for me The Last Airbender. This film is quite simply atrocious. I hold my hands up, as a Shyamalan fan, even I could not let this one pass. It is a terrible film, really badly scripted, horribly edited. It felt like it should have been something a lot more epic, a lot more fantastical, certainly from the trailers. The trailers were very promising, but instead what we got was a very short, very strained and a very silly kind of fantasy film. I give Last Airbender a 2 out of 10. Next up is After Earth, a film that was essentially a vanity project for Will Smith and his son, Jaden. Now, I've got nothing against Will Smith trying to put his son in a lot of film roles. I appreciate that family dynamic. However, it's not really done much to help Jaden Smith's career, because people now feel like he can't really get by on his own merits. He always needs his dad to push him somewhere, which is a shame because he is actually a decent actor when he's put in the right role. He was very good in The Karate Kid, I thought. But in this film, he comes across as a little bit bland, and that's quite something from Shyamalan, who has had a history with getting pretty decent performances from child actors. He did it most recently with The Visit, but in this one he doesn't really get much from Jaden Smith, and I have to think that maybe there was some kind of control issues going on there with Will Smith, who produced this film as well. It didn't really feel like Shyamalan's stamp was on it as much as his previous work. It's not a bad film, it's not a terrible film, I should say. It's not a good film, but it's not terrible. There are things in it to admire. There are things in it that I think could be improved upon to make it something a bit more special, but as it stands, it's not that great, and I would give it a 5 out of 10. Number 7 is Lady in the Water. Now, I actually quite like this film. I think it's a really good story. It does get a little bit kind of all over the place now and again, but on the whole, I like the concept behind it. The only flaw, or well, there's a few flaws, but the major flaw with it is that Shyamalan cast himself in such a pivotal role. And because of that role, because it's this writer who's responsible for saving the world, it really stinks of ego, and I think it allowed the critics to really get the knives out and feel justified in doing so. If Shyamalan had not cast himself in the role that he puts himself in here, I think this film would have been received a lot better, and I think people would appreciate it for the grand fairy tale that it is. I still like the film. I wish he hadn't cast himself, but I do still like it. I like Bryce Dallas Howard in it, and I think it's a good story. I give it a 7 out of 10. At number 6, I'm going to put The Happening. Now, I think this will confuse a lot of people. This film was universally panned across the board. It's often joked about by many, but to be honest, I've never understood that criticism. When I first watched The Happening at the cinema, I really liked it. I thought it was a spooky film. I thought it scared in places where it was meant to. I thought it was humorous in places where it was meant to be humorous. I think it's quite chilling in many places. It is flawed. I think the last few minutes of the film is a bit of a cop-out. I would have liked to have seen a bit more of a, I don't know, complete endings. It just seems to stop. It's like he didn't really know how to end it, so he just allows this thing to stop, to just pass on by, and for me that was a bit disappointing. But other than those last few minutes, everything that led up to it for me was a good slow build thriller, and I really enjoyed it, and I will give this film a 7 out of 10. At number 5, I'm putting The Visit. Now, I saw this recently. Many people are saying this is Shyamalan's return to form, or certainly return to decent filmmaking at any rate. I thought it was a very good film. I think it was creepy. I think it was funny in parts. I didn't think it worked on every level. I think it suffers from a lot of the tics that found footage movies suffer from, but on the whole, really great performances and really heartfelt ending. I liked what the film stood for. I liked what it had to say, and the old couple that are in it are really, really creepy. I give it an 8 out of 10. And number 4 is The Village. Now, what I loved about this film was that the main character was Joaquin Phoenix, and then halfway through he's kind of ditched and the main character becomes Bryce Dallas Howard's character, and I really liked that turn in the narrative. I really liked where Shyamalan took us with these characters. I became involved with the characters. I got emotionally attached to them, and a lot of people said they saw the twist coming because it was very much like a Twilight Zone episode, I should say. I've not seen that particular Twilight Zone episode. I don't know how alike it is to it, but from what I've heard, it does rehash a particular episode of the Twilight Zone. Now, I haven't seen it, so for me the film was fresh. It was a good idea. I liked the twist ending. I didn't quite see it coming. I was expecting the twist, but I thought it was something else. So yeah, I really liked the film. I loved the performances and I loved the atmosphere that Shyamalan created. I give the film an 8 out of 10, and I find it very hard to put it in 4th position. I would like to put it in 3rd position, but the film that I have put in 3rd position is Signs. Now, as I say, I think these two films are kind of on a par for me. Signs and The Village, I like them equally, but I think maybe Signs has more to say to me personally. I think I resonate with it more because of my faith. So just for that reason, I've put it at number 3. So Signs gets the number 3 position. Like I say, this is a film about faith, something that Shyamalan has kind of touched upon throughout many of his films. I think he tends to touch on religious themes, whether it's faith in this one or forgiveness in the Visit. But I like how he deals with it here. Yes, there is a flaw in the script in that why would aliens come and try to invade a planet that is 2/3 water when they are allergic to water? Water kills them. But we don't know their circumstances. This could have been the first viable planet they came across. They may have had no choice. That so-called flaw aside, I think once again Shyamalan does a very good job of creating atmosphere in this film and a very good job of writing fully rounded characters that I find engaging. I really like this film and I give it an 8 out of 10. And so we get to the last 2 films on this list, which are The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable. Now, I'd give both of these movies a 10 out of 10, but I would put Sixth Sense above Unbreakable. Sixth Sense is my number 1, Unbreakable is my number 2. a bit of a bizarre way of counting them down, but I just wanted to talk about them together simply because I love both of these movies. Again, the atmosphere that Shyamalan creates is just, it's masterful. I think he does have a really good understanding of how to create atmosphere in film, how to create chills, and he does that more so with The Sixth Sense than he does with Unbreakable, but they're both equally great films. Unbreakable is probably the most underrated of the two. I think a lot of people don't quite get it as much as they do The Sixth Sense, but I really love it. I think it's got a killer twist ending. I love the character played by Bruce Willis and the character played by Samuel L. Jackson. I think they're great polar opposites, and I think this was the best performance that Bruce Willis had given in a long time, along with The Sixth Sense. And yeah, again, Sixth Sense, for me, my personal favourite of Shyamalan's films, really speaks to me on quite a great level, profound level. I love the relationship between the young boy and his mother, played by Toni Collette. And this really has two endings because it's following two separate stories. It's following the Bruce Willis character's story, and it's following the young boy's story, and they don't necessarily meet at the end. They have two separate endings. They both have to finish their own stories, and everyone touches upon the twist ending with Bruce Willis's character, but for me the ending that resonates most is the one between the boy and his mother. That's where the emotional core of this story for me lies, and that's why this film works on repeat viewings. It's why I can watch it again and again, because when that scene comes, that final scene between the lad and his mother, it's really emotional. It gets me every time. I love this film, and I think it's evidence that Shyamalan is definitely a great filmmaker. Yes, he's had some slips, Last Airbender being the obvious one, and After Earth. But other than that, I think the majority of his films are still noteworthy, still something to talk about. The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable being the obvious standouts. And so there you go, there's my thoughts on the career of M. Night Shyamalan so far. But I'd like to know what you think. Do you think that he's been unfairly criticised over recent times? Or do you think that criticism is much deserved? Which is your favourite of his films and which is your worst? Comment below, let me know, and until next time, thanks for watching. At number 6, I'm putting The Happening. Now, I think a lot of people will be grim. And so we're left with 9 feature films that M. Night Shyamalan has directed. And so we're left with 9 feature films that